it looked really polluted. Now, our thoughts are the electrical currents that are moving through our body. Every single thought we think, every single word that goes through our mind has a biological impact on our body and the function of our body. You know, I can tell, it's incredible. Like, I can tell just by looking at somebody and their posture, half the time what's going on between their ears. If their shoulders are all hunched and their head's down, I know that they're not having good conversations with themselves.
Welcome to Two Women, Wine and a Dollop of Truth, the hilarious and insightful podcast that gets real with you about love, health, life, and celebrates what it really means to be a woman in today's society. Your hosts, Emily Chadbourne, relationship expert and creator of the Forever Love Formula, and Kelly Bowen, world champion athlete and creator of the Exceptional Living Model. Have a glass of wine or two and share what's really working.
Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Women, Wine and a Dollop of Truth. I am your co-host, Kelly Bowen. I'm here with my beautiful other co-host.
Hi, my name is Emily Chadbourne, and I am the founder of That Crazy Thing Called Love, and welcome to our latest episode of Women, Wine and a Dollop of Truth. And talking of wine, Kelly, what are you drinking?
I think it's quite similar to what I was drinking last time, the Kono, because it's got the 2 awards. I think I bought a few bottles. Slowly every podcast, we're working our way around them. So yeah, the Kono, wine of New Zealand from the Marlborough region. Very nice drop, highly recommended.
And I am yet again drinking tea out of my very British teacup. For those of you who are watching, there is my pretty floral British teacup. Taking a little break from booze at the moment, honouring myself and my body, which is actually on topic anyway for what we're going to talk about today, which very much leads on from our last episode, which was all about looking at downloading or, taking on attributes of people that we admire and how we can distinguish the things between what is a characteristic of someone that we would like to have more of or bring out more in ourselves. Whoa, words, I promise not to be drinking tea. There's no gin in there.
No
how we can draw... Yeah, no sippy cup, not yet. How we can draw more of that out from ourselves, but how we can... The danger that we can sometimes, especially as women, fall into, which is, well, I'm looking at this person and she's stunningly beautiful, and I can't get over how I will never look like that, so I could never be like that.
Yeah.
And that was coming up for a couple of people on the back of our first podcast. So we kind of explored that a little bit more last week. But this week, following on from that, what we're talking about is, well, how do we actually stop that from happening? So at the end of last week, we tasked the listeners and the viewers to go and tell themselves how much they love themselves every single day, a minute for 30 days. I love you, repetitively in the mirror, looking into your own eyes. And that's definitely going to go some way into creating that feeling of self-worth, which means that we can look at someone as beautiful as, and I believe we're still on Delta Goodrum. We're still fawning about Delta Goodrum. She's still our muse. If we could just get a picture of Delta Goodrum, that would be great. Like a life-size cutout. If we can't have her live on the podcast, if we could get a cardboard cutout of her,
yeah,
that would be great. Is that, to be able to look at someone who has got that natural beauty and she's stunningly gorgeous, and to be able to say, I see an attribute in her regardless of her beauty, and actually it's the attribute in her that makes her more physically beautiful. And that's kind of where we left off last time, which I thought was really interesting. I've been pondering that all week.
Yeah. So the pondering the actual download? Or how do
well, just pondering how you can meet some people. Because as you know, I'm in the world of dating, and
yes.
One of the most popular dating apps at the moment is Tinder. And I was actually having a little play on it myself the other day. Stop it.
Nothing wrong with Tinder.
Swiping away like you do. And I was thinking about this, and it really popped into my mind. I don't often think about Delta Goodrum as I'm swiping through Tinder, but she popped into my brain because it really made me think. I am making a snap decision. I'm making a snap judgment on whether or not I'm going to engage somebody in conversation based on one picture that I can see on my crappy little, smashed Samsung screen, my phone, And the reality is, when I actually get to meet this person in flesh, if I meet them in the flesh, they could instantly be far more attractive because they have certain attributes which I find really attractive. Or they could instantly, I mean, you could be the most beautiful person in the world, but if your mouth opens and you're a dickhead, or don't really have the same value set as me, or you're completely racist and, not to quote anyone in the media, but, you know, close the borders to, to an entire religion of people.
I did catch that on the radio today.
Gosh, that is a completely different podcast, and we have to move on.
We're not going to take that one on.
You know, but, you know, all of a sudden that person is now less attractive to me. And it's got nothing to do with the physical appearance. It's about who they are. It's who they're bringing to the table. It's the attributes that they're presenting in front of us. And when we look at ourselves as women, and we can be all sorts of different type of women in the same person, in the same body, with the same value set, I think that's a really, really powerful message, is that the more of the bits of other people that you like you can bring forward in yourself, the more attractive you're going to be to yourself, let alone to other people. It's got nothing to do with whether you're fat or thin. It's, well, actually, you are... I feel like I am really attractive because I really like myself right now.
Yeah, and I think you just hit the nail on the head there, Em. It's the relationship you have with yourself, and there's two kinds of relationships that you can have. You can have the relationship with yourself where you are cultivating self-love, self-worth, self-confidence, self-acceptance, where you are your best friend and you're talking to yourself as if you're your own best cheerleader. As opposed to the one where you're constantly giving yourself a hard time. And you know, you really know what world you're living in by how you're noticing other people. Like, I notice if I ever catch myself being judgy, straight away I'm like, all right, where am I judging myself? Because I wouldn't be finding judgment in my external world if I wasn't judging myself somewhere, or if I didn't have a conflict within myself that I needed to resolve. I wouldn't be judging it. As opposed to the times where I'm just... like, I've got love hearts floating out my eyes for people over certain things and certain qualities. I'm like, okay, I'm recognizing that because I've obviously got some really good things going on with my own relationship. And it's such a key window to, are we looking at things through a critical window, or are we looking at things through a loving window? And it's even more interesting what that actually does to our brain chemistry when we're in these spaces. So we can have our brain chemistry when we're thinking negative thoughts. It actually breaks our body down. And we wonder why we feel tired, lethargic, our body aches, we get brain fog, as opposed to when we've got this beautiful, loving relationship with ourselves where we're speaking to ourselves in a way that's bringing out our better qualities and our better attributes. It actually builds energy within us and it creates health and vitality. And there's a study that have you seen the Dr. Emoto study? The one where he studies water crystals and the different vibrations of the water crystals?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this is how powerful your thoughts are. So this guy, Dr. Emoto, if you haven't seen it, check it out on YouTube. It's Dr. Emoto Water Study. We'll also put it up in the Women, Wine and Truth Hangout, so you can have a look at it as well. But what's
the Facebook group?
The Facebook group for those of you that I just missed out a huge chunk of information. But so big picture people.
Yeah. Detail.
But what this Japanese doctor did, he got these water samples, like all exactly the same water samples, and he wrote certain words on each one of the water samples and then studied it under a microscope. So on one lot of samples, he had like love, peace, joy, and I think a prayer, like a blessing from, I think it was a monk or something, don't quote me, or a priest. Then the other one had war, hate, I want to kill you. And when they looked at the water underneath a microscope, they found the water molecules did these strange things. So love, hope, peace, and the blessing formed these beautiful, stunning crystals. And they just look so beautiful and so amazing. Then the ones, hate, war, I want to kill you, the water looks so polluted, like it was something out of, what's that river in India? The really polluted one. The Ganges? Is it the Ganges? I could be geographically right off.
Geography. Did
anyway,
human behavior.
But yeah, so it's it looked really polluted. Now, our thoughts are the electrical currents that are moving through our body. Every single thought we think, every single word that goes through our mind has a biological impact on our body and the function of our body. You know, I can tell, it's incredible. Like, I can tell just by looking at somebody and their posture, half the time what's going on between their ears. If they're all, like, if their shoulders are all hunched and their heads down, I know that they're not having good conversations with themselves.
But it goes even further than that, doesn't it? Because you can tell where I am in my life by the quality of my skin. If you see, I just call it adult acne. It's not. It's just how I am being, how I'm showing up to myself. If I am in a place where my self-talk is really, really negative, and that's normally because my environment, I have created an environment around me that is highly stressful, or, you know, potentially I've taken on one project too many and I'm not getting enough sleep and my diet's suffering and I'm not making time to go to the gym and not making time to see my friends, the things that are important to me. You can see it. You can see it in my skin immediately, and really interesting, I can feel it in my weight, and that's like, I don't weigh myself. I don't believe in scales, but
it's good. I don't either.
No, I have got absolutely no idea, nor do I care. But I can feel it in my genes. Like, I can feel that my body is holding on to that sort of negative charge. Does that make sense? And that's that. And 100%. I've said that for years, even before I went into human behavior and all this kind of stuff. Like, I've always thought that I've you know, my weight is a direct reflection of how I feel about myself. I don't consider that I have a weight problem, but, you know, a couple of kilos here and there, and I can definitely feel it. And it is always linked to where I am in my life. If I'm in a really cool, really happy place where, you know, I'm creating a life around me that I'm really chuffed to bits with, my skin is clear, my eyes are brighter, my jeans do up without feeling a little bit painful. Maybe I should just buy bigger jeans.
Yeah. Problem solved. But you're so right with that. Like, and I particularly see this with my clients because it's what I work with. I work with weight loss, and the moment the relationship with self changes, the moment that self-talk changes from "you're not good enough," fat, ugly, insert whatever it is that you say here, that to "I love you, I care about you, you're worthy of me taking care of you, you're worthy of me putting good things into you," it totally changes it. And here's the other interesting thing about our thinking. Each one of our cells have the receptor sites on it, and these receptor sites become conditioned to whatever messages the brain's sending it. So if the brain is sending lots of negative impulses, the cells are picking these up. Now, you can get addicted to the negative feelings because of the receptors on the cell. So even if, like, the cells start demanding the negative feelings coming from the brain. So it's when I know, crazy, right?
This is blowing my brain out. This is amazing.
Yeah, so when you want to make a change, you've got to scramble the neural pathways. And mind you, the cells do respond really quickly once you start, like, making a choice to be happy and committing to, you know, instead of berating myself for doing something wrong, I'm going to say to myself, when that little voice starts and it wants to, when those cells start calling out for those negative feelings and the negative thoughts, you say to yourself, thank you, I've got this, and choose a different story to tell yourself. This is how you're reprogramming your biochemistry on a cellular level to start craving the good, happy, positive thoughts.
So what you're saying is it's habitual.
It is habitual.
Eventually, and habits can change. We can break habits, we can make habits. So the idea of, because I've always thought this, I remember thinking this as a child, you know, there are just some people on this planet that are born happy. Mm-hmm. And the older I've gotten, and having been a happy person and a really bloody miserable one for a fair few years, I've, you know, realised through my own experience, and now I'm studying it, is that actually happiness is a choice and sadness is a choice, and it's a habitual, and so often it gets habitual. And so it's like it's like saying, the people that sort of say, oh, it's really easy for you to think happy, you're just a happy sort of person. Well, actually, it's easy for anyone to think happy. It's just that we have to make the conscious effort to create it 100%, as a habit.
You have to condition it. So think of it like this. So in your brain, there's what's called a synaptic gap. So the synapses are what transfer the electrical impulses in your brain to get to wherever it's meant to be. And there's a certain gap between them. Now, obviously, the shorter the gap between the synapses, the quicker the message will pass across. The further the gap between the synapses, the longer it's going to take for the message to get across. Now, let's just say you've conditioned yourself, you've spent 20-something, 30-something years of your life beating up on yourself and giving yourself a hard time. The gap between the synapses of the negative self-talk are really close. And it's really easy to fire a message and get it to where it's meant to be. Now, the gap between positive self-talk is going to be so much wider because this pathway hasn't been used much. It's new. It's like, think of it if you've got two football players standing on a field and you've got one that's standing 3 feet away and one that's standing 30 feet away, which football is going to get there quicker? And, you know, which pathway is going to be the easier one to take? Obviously, the one that's closer, the 3 feet away one. So when you're making a choice to be happy, and I do believe that happiness is a choice, and for some of us, the journey is greater than others, but still it's a choice, and it can be achieved by anyone because the brain's full of neuroplasticity, which means it's ever changing. Nothing's permanent. You can create, recreate. And you know, I can't remember who said it, but it's like an educated mind of the 21st century isn't somebody that's smart, it's someone who can learn, unlearn, and relearn. And I can't remember who said it, and if anybody can, I'd love for you to put in the comments after this who said it, because I think it's a brilliant, brilliant saying. But when we're looking at creating happiness, if that pathway of creating happy thoughts and positive self-talk hasn't been worked, that gap is going to take some time to close until it is the same distance as the other one. You know, we can do things. We can do cool coaching mindset tool stuff to, you know, start scrambling that old pattern, that old story, but it's still going to take time to have this other one connect. And the more happy emotions you create around the new thought patterns, the quicker that connection is going to strengthen. But it's important that it is chosen every day to be focused on, which is why the I love you in the mirror is so powerful.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because when you look at nature, look at anything at nature, and again, we are just creatures of nature. I think 99% of the people listening would agree with that. And if you're the 1% who doesn't believe that we come from nature, different podcast series for you to go listen to, which is cool. Like, rock on.
It's totally cool.
Not dissing it. Just whatever you want to believe in is awesome. But in this particular podcast, we believe that we come from nature. And when you look at anything else in nature, anything else, we go path of least resistance. Lightning, path of least resistance. Water, path of least resistance. A tree will grow at a frigging right angle instead of growing straight up if it's easier to go on a right angle, even if it's going to take it a bit of a longer time. So it is, and our brain is no different. It's going path of least resistance. And if you spent 30 odd years, I mean, I spent 32 years telling myself I wasn't good enough, that I wasn't worth it, and it's not necessarily having the physical conversation, because the synapses, the gap between my synapses was so small that I didn't even have to say the words consciously in my head. I didn't even say the words, fucking hell, Emily, you're an idiot. I didn't actually say that. It was instantaneous. And then what happens is then you forget that it's a thought that sparks the emotion, and you begin to think it's just the way I feel. I can't help it. It's just the way I feel. And I remember I was living up in Airlie Beach. I remember having this conversation with an ex-boyfriend of mine who was like, you know, look at positive psychology. You've just got to think more positively. And I remember looking at him and thinking, you're a frigging idiot. I'm not choosing to feel like this. And I genuinely did not think I was not, in my mind, I was not choosing to feel depressed. And I was experiencing feelings of depression at the time. But I could not comprehend that I was actually choosing that because I wasn't having that conversation with myself, which was, Emily, you're not good enough, or Emily, you're an idiot, or Emily, you fucked up again, or Emily, you know, which is, you know, my constant self-talk. But I didn't even have time to have that self-talk because it was just so instantaneous. My brain was just wired, boom, instantly. See the negative in everything, see how it's your fault, blame other people, completely and totally and utterly. And I could not comprehend. It took me a good 18 months to get to the point where I was like, oh, I do choose this, and I can choose a different way. And I still, to this day, I'm not saying it's easy. The simple things in life aren't always easy. And every single day I have to train my brain to be happy and to think positively. And the effect that has on my physical appearance is phenomenal.
Yeah, it's epic. And I love that you say that. Just how quick, and it is, like, honestly, once it's being conditioned, it happens so fast. And here's the cool thing, though: the more you train your brain to think positive, the gap between the negative actually becomes bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, because the pathway hasn't been used.
Yeah. And then we go to, again, if we come back to path of least resistance, that's why happy people are always happy. You know, those people that just like rock up every day and they're like, hi. Yeah. They're like, oh, my dog just died, but I'm okay. Yeah. And you're like, how? What are you smoking? And it turns out they're not. They have just trained their brain to go that the path of least resistance is, what's the gift in this for me? What's the positive intention in this for me? How is this going to make my life better? You know, and it might be, oh, now I get to have a new puppy. Brilliant. Yay. Yeah. Or, you know, or it could be, or you could then choose to, you know, dwell in your dog's death for the next 4 years and that prevent you from doing lots of other things that could bring you joy, and, you know, means that you do go and eat an entire chocolate cake and drink 3 bottles of red wine instead of going for the salad and a walk. So it's so interesting, and I think quite often we feel like we're at the effect of the world around us and at the effect of our feelings, and most people don't really have the understanding that we are completely in control, and we have the ability. It's not easy. Actually, I was watching something about Tony Robbins the other day, arguably the guru, the king of the personal development. The king. We'll call him the king. Yeah, King Tony. And he was sort of saying, he was talking about his morning ritual, full of gratitude and all that kind of stuff. And I've got to say, gratitude is one of the best. If you want to retrain your brain, go with gratitude. And I know it sounds a bit naff, and I know potentially you've heard it before, but in my world, you either come from a place of love or a place of fear. All emotions come from one of those two places, and you know, you cannot be in a place of fear if you're in a place of gratitude. You can only ever be in a place of love, and it's such a powerful tool. Yeah. Anyway, he was talking about how he, you know, his morning ritual of gratitude and all this kind of stuff, and he himself, and we're talking King Tony here, okay? So King Tony, he himself says, I have to do this every day because my brain we are not wired to look for the positive. We are wired to look for fear. It is biological. It's a survival instinct. We are wired to say what is wrong with this problem. Like, where's the problem here? What's wrong here? Where's the danger here? Survival. What's the fear here? So that we can survive. Because if we were lolloping around as Homo sapiens 10,000 years ago, going, oh, look at that saber-toothed tiger. He looks awesome.
He's so pretty.
I'm going to go and stroke him. You know, like, hunting up. Hi, my brain is wired to happiness. Yeah. You know, we would be dead. So we are biologically wired to go, all right, where's the danger here? Where's the fear here? And so we have to, it is a training process. It's not, it sounds ridiculous. It's kind of not natural for us to be that happy.
It makes me think of, I was listening to Vision Lakiani. He's the guy that does Mind Valley, Awesomeness Fest. Like, yeah, highly love what he does. But he was saying in one of his talks, he's talking about how in the last 100 years we've learned how to take care of our bodies a lot. So 100 years ago, if we were to go sniff the back of someone's neck, that'd stink. We do that. It's true, though. They would stink.
Well, I was sniffing necks the other day, actually, Kel.
And what did you smell?
If you went and sniffed the back of my neck, I'd punch you in the face.
But the point being that, so now if you were to go sniff the back of somebody's neck, you smell perfume, you smell shampoo and conditioner, you smell body lotion, you smell cologne. There's like, you have really pleasant smells. But 100 years ago, you were lucky to take a bath every 3 days, once a week, once a month for some people. 100 years ago, we didn't have what we have now. Actually, it might be closer to 120. I've got to remember we're moving well into the 20s. But when you're talking back like early 1900s, 1800s, you know, we stunk. There was no such thing like once a week shower for hygiene. You were wealthy. Now we'll shower once, twice a day. And we've got all these beautiful things to take care of our body. However, what have we done to take care of our minds? For most of us, we're walking around with dirty minds. We don't know how to wash it. We don't know how to clean it. We don't know how to take care of it. And we wonder why, as you said, Em, we're back stuck in this survival instinct mode. And, you know, as you said, our brain it can experience love or it can experience fear, but it can't do the two at the same time. Your animal, like your primal brain, your reptilian brain, like the most primal part of you, is wired to always look for fear. You have to use the newer parts of our brain, like the neocortex, the part where we can consciously think and choose what we think, to have us develop the seeing of love, the seeing of gratitude. And
that's what, and that ties so beautifully into kind of what this whole podcast is all about, and the community that we're building is all about. And we touched on this in the very first episode, which is how do we consciously create an awesome life, not just for ourselves, but collectively as women, as a collective conscious. Like, how are we consciously making this life that we have, as fleeting as it is, as awesome as possible? And that really is about being consciously aware to move away from, all right, I feel like this because of instinct. I feel like this because I'm programmed to look for fear, to look for change, to be fearful of change. We're all fearful of change. It's inherently built into us again. So it's about, like you say, stepping away from that and reacting to the world around us, which most of us really do. And I did it beautifully, and I still do it sometimes.
Me too.
Today.
I catch myself doing things. I'm like, hang on a minute.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so I think, you know, moving away from that, well, this is just me reacting, and I don't really have any control about this, and whatever life hands me, I will have to deal with. And actually saying, well, no, I'm consciously going to choose the life that I create, and when something does happen, I'm going to choose what I make that mean, and I'm always going to put a positive spin in it. That's not to say that we don't have bad days. That's not to say that you're going to see me smiling every day or like, hi, jazz hands. I don't actually want to be that person. You have to experience the shitty bits of life to experience the joyful bits of life. There's just no getting away from that. It's the law of the world. And I definitely have days where I'm a bit like, sookie la la pants, going to sit here in a sulk. Everything hates me. I hate everything. And that's cool. You have to have those days. Yeah. You just don't stay in them.
Yeah.
That's the key, is having a strategy to be able to say, well, actually, no, if I choose to stay here, this will become a habitual feeling for me. And then it will be the feeling that I believe then controls my mind. And it's not. It's your mind that controls the feeling.
Yep. And I think that's like, you touched on it. Like, I think we could probably give them a few strategies now in terms of, you touched on it beautifully, rituals. Rituals are the things that are going to help build the strength between the happy neural pathways. It's going to shorten that distance, and the best people in the world are doing it, so there's got to be something in it. And I think,
the people who are getting really frigging amazing results in their life are people who practice rituals and strategies around, how do I think well? And if I think well, my body will follow.
Yep. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go. I mean, let's give the listeners some strategies. Cool. I touched on this earlier. My big one, my massive, huge one is gratitude.
Yeah, 100%.
And it sounds really wanky. Have an attitude of gratitude. It sounds so wanky, but it works. And you can do this in so many different ways. Some people do it through meditation. Some people have a gratitude diary.
Yeah, I do. Actually, mine's right here.
Oh,
for all the people that
for
the people that can see, it's got my vision picture on there. Then it's got like my writings where I can't find it. So I've got my little writings. It's awesome.
Yeah, and I do it at night. I know some people that do it first thing in the morning because it feels like it sets them up for the day. However you want to do it is completely fine. Some people speak them out loud. Some people write them down. It completely, there is no right and there's no wrong. I just think to be expressing gratitude. And it's something I use quite a lot with my clients when there has been an exit of a male character in their life. In order to, how do we get over that bitterness? How do you get over that? Oh, fuck you, you've hurt me, you did this to me, you've made me upset, you've made me, sad, you made me drink that whole bottle of wine and then make that phone call, which I now desperately regret. That was his fault. That was not my fault. And it really is, the thing that gets people from that place of blame to that place of being back and taking back control is I'm really grateful. I'm grateful for this lesson. I'm grateful for the experience I had with you here. I'm grateful that I, have raised the bar. And more than anything, I'm grateful that you've left so that there is now space for someone even more awesome to come into my life and fill that void, or, not void, not that anyone has a void, but,
to fill that space.
Take that space. Gratitude works so beautifully, and it comes hand in hand with forgiveness so often.
Yeah. And I think too with gratitude, we have so much to be grateful for. Like, just to contrast, like, just how lucky we are in the time that we live in. We live better. The poorest people in Western world countries live better than the kings and queens of a couple of 100 years ago. Yeah. We have electricity, we have heating, we have clean running water. Like, we have warm beds to sleep in. We've got Wi-Fi, internet. We have a means like what we're doing now to communicate with. People might bitch and moan about paying the Vic Roads registration every year, but that's why we have beautiful roads to drive on.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and a car to sit in and get you from A to B.
Yeah, it would take us. We have planes. Like, the world is so accessible to us. There are so many things in our world today to be grateful for. Like, even our body. Like, would you really sell a body part? Like, if somebody was to offer you, if somebody was to offer you $2 million for your leg, would you sell it?
Absolutely not. I like both of my legs.
Yeah, like, just these little things that we take for granted. The fact that we can walk. There are people in wheelchairs. There are people.
Yeah. And actually, do you know the other thing that gratitude does? And again, going back into feeling attractive, and as a woman, how do we feel attractive in our own skin and our own body in a society where we're bombarded by basically fake tits and Photoshop and huge amount of spray tan? Is if I hold the door open for somebody and they walk through the doorway and they turn and they say to me, "Hey, thanks," I don't care what you look like. Automatically, I've got some time for you. Yeah. Automatically, you're a nice person. If I'm holding a door open for you and you walk through that door and you don't turn around and say, "Hey, thank you," you could look like Brad Pitt. You're instantly a bit of a wanker, and I no longer find you attractive. So it's about, making eye contact with people, expressing gratitude for what you have, but it's also about expressing gratitude for the people around you. And that's such an attractive quality. When you're at Coles next, actually engage in conversation with the woman or the guy who's checking, with a checkout chick, and say, "Thank you very much for helping me pack my bags." That is that makes somebody physically attractive.
Yeah. Look, I agree. The other day, I was at Dan Murphy's. Here we go.
Of course she was.
This was the day that I was at Dan Murphy's, and I was choosing our the champagne to kick off the podcast with. And the guy, he was so lovely. He helped me choose the champagne. He put it in a box for me, and he offered to carry it to my car. Like, so lovely. And he was like, I automatically had so much respect and connection with him, and I just automatically thought so differently of him, purely because of just the care. Like, he actually really cared, and he knew his wines and he knew his champagne, and it was just the experience that person created. I was like, I will go back there. Yeah. And I'm so grateful for the fact that he took that time.
So, attitude of gratitude, not just for yourself, because I think that's really important. What are you grateful for that you have done? What are you grateful for that you have? But also expressing it to other people. So, it's about, making eye contact with people and being like, "Hi, how are you today?" Or, "Can I help you out?" Or whatever it might be. So, gratitude. You cannot be in a place of fear if you're in a place of gratitude. Give it a go for a week. See how you go with it.
Yeah, and I think it's a perfect add-in too to the, because we're still doing the I love you in the mirror every day. And I think it's a perfect add-in, and I think maybe over the coming shows we can start building these rituals.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because I think the key to success is one thing at a time. And I'm sure, and I know you talk about this with your clients too, it's not change everything all at once. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Let's just make small changes over time and head towards the goal. If you're sending a rocket into outer space and you change the trajectory just by 2%, it's going to end up in a completely different place. It's the same thing here. We're not looking at creating short-term results. We're looking at creating or helping you create a life for you that is your version of exceptional, and it's about an end game. It's not about having it all now. And it's making sustainable changes that create the lifestyle, not a 6-week challenge or something where once it's done, it's like, then fuck, that's over. Where's the bottle shop and where's my pie?
Yeah. Yeah, I've got room in my jeans. Time to fill it.
Yep.
Yeah,
so
no,
true.
absolutely. So yeah, definitely gratitude. What else can the listeners and viewers do kind of almost instantaneously in order to try and retrain their brain? And we did touch on self-talk a little bit earlier. Did you want to pick up on that one?
Yeah, in terms of the conversation that you're having with yourself. So I think when it comes to, this is a really good one to start, like, changing the momentum. Like, if you catch yourself having a moment of either you find yourself feeling into something negative, or if you find yourself giving yourself a hard time about something, or you find yourself being overcritical of something external to you, the first thing that you want to do and the most powerful thing that you can do is say thank you. Say thank you to that little voice in your head, because when if you meet resistance with resistance, you're going to get a fire. So if that little voice starts talking, you're like, shut up, go away. Like, oh, for fuck's sake, really? You're putting more ammo on it, and the fire is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger and more resistance. But if you say thank you, it's like, oh, it's got nothing to fight against. It just neutralizes the whole thing, so it slows the whole speed of the conversation down. Yeah. And then you can start like, thank you, I've got this, and then say, thank you, I've got this, I'm choosing to think about, or I'm choosing to consider something else. I'm choosing to see the gift in this. I'm choosing to find something to be grateful about in this experience. And that, I think, is going to create, like, that's really going to start building that connection between the positive neural pathway, so that gets stronger and stronger for you.
Absolutely. And the other thing that with self-talk that I did, and I worked this out, well, it's probably about 3 years ago now, and it's something that I still do. So I am blessed, hugely blessed, to be an auntie, and I have 2 nieces and 2 nephews, and I love them all equally. My eldest niece is obviously the first time she made me an auntie. And when I was living in the UK, I lived relatively close to my sister in London, and I saw Megan quite a lot. Her name is Megan, and she's taller than me now and about 11, which is petrifying on so many levels. And she's just utterly gorgeous. Anyway, about 3 years ago, when I realized that my self-talk was damaging me in more ways than just one, and not just physically but emotionally, and the results that I was getting. If you don't believe in yourself, no one else is going to, right? So
100%.
I realized that my self-talk really had to change, and it had to change dramatically, and I had to start becoming my best friend and really developing this relationship with myself. And I thought, okay, well, when I go at myself and, tell myself I'm rubbish and crap and all the things that I was doing on a day-to-day basis, I was like, how would I speak to Megan, actually, in that sense? So let's say I went and I did something and I ballsed it up and I came home and I was like, well, that was crap. My go-to path of least resistance self-talk is, you're a friggin' idiot, Emily, and I can't believe you even tried to do that in the first place. Of course you were going to balls that up. Nobody's surprised. You're an idiot. Go and sit on the sofa and feel bad about yourself. Deserve to go and sit on the sofa and feel bad about yourself, and eat a chocolate cake while you're there, wash it down with a bottle of wine, and hate on yourself. And instead, what I've started doing, the moment I start catching myself do that, I say to myself, now hang on. If Megan had done that, if Megan had tried to do that, what would you say to Megan? And so my response now is, well, actually, do you know what, Megan? You tried, and you frigging rock for trying, and I actually think you're pretty awesome for doing that. Now, what one tiny thing would you do differently next time to get a different result? Other than that, you're a freaking champion. And I find that the more I talk to myself the way I would talk to Megan, the better my results are, the better I feel about myself, the more likely I am to find the gift, to find the gratitude, and the better my results are being. And physically, I feel so much better because I'm now treating my body in a way that is positive and lovely, and I think that's reflected on the outside.
Yeah,
for sure.
I love it. It's such a beautiful strategy, and it's so simple. Like, would you really speak to a child like that? And I think, at the end of the day, we all, like, in these moments, we're dealing with the inner child. We're always dealing with the inner child.
Oh, always.
And then when you embrace the fact that, you know, would I really speak to a child like this? And why would I not treat myself with just that much love and just that much care and just that much compassion? And that in itself changes it hugely. So there's three big takeouts from this one, and it's one, gratitude for self, gratitude for what you have, and gratitude for others. And like simple things, you know, somebody makes you a coffee, be present, say thank you, get off the phone. You know, you're at the checkout, you know, be present, connect with the person, say thank you for packing your groceries.
I was at the deli the other day at Coles, which is shouldn't have been the deli, but anyway, I was, whatever. Yep. And there was this woman, and she was on the phone, and she's like just pointing at the stuff, and I'm like, get off the phone and have a feeling of connection with this woman and say thank you and be grateful that she is there doing her job so that you can take home your hot pepperoni salami. Like, just, you know, you're not... Gratitude is something that it's a flow. It's a flow of energy. It's an exchange of energy. It's
giving and receiving.
Yeah,
absolutely giving and receiving. So gratitude. The second one is, you know, would you really speak to yourself? Would you speak to a child the way that you're speaking to yourself?
Or your best friend.
Or your best friend. Yeah.
That's always a good one as well. Because sometimes I think if I spoke to my best friend the way I speak to myself, my best friend would punch me in the face.
Yeah, me too. They would not want to hang around with me. She would tell me to pack my bags. There's no way she would stand for it.
Yeah, and I know your best friend, and she actually would pack your bags for you and kick you out of the house.
She'd be like, sorry, I just don't do that. And the third one is when that little voice starts, say thank you. Say thank you and choose a different story.
Acknowledge it.
Yeah,
you can't ignore it. This isn't about sweeping anything under the carpet.
No.
It's about acknowledging and moving on.
Yeah.
I'm just going to leave us with this beautiful quote, which I have just slyly Googled. It's actually a Roald Dahl quote, because talking about, you know, really nurturing... We need to start nurturing ourselves as women the way we nurture children. We're really good at it. We're inherently born to be maternal. So let's start bringing a little bit of that into ourselves. And it's this beautiful quote by Roald Dahl. It says, if you have good thoughts, they will shine out of your face like sunbeams, and you will always look lovely.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And I think that's absolutely, totally sums up what today's podcast has all been about. If you want to look attractive, if you look at someone in the media and you think, I could never be that attractive, what is it about that person that's attractive? Because the rest of it, the superficial stuff is just makeup and good lighting. You know, we can all look beautiful if we are beautiful on the inside. Yeah, and that has to start with a relationship that we cultivate with ourselves. Because if we're not in a beautiful relationship with ourselves, that shows physically on the outside, for sure.
100%. So that's beautiful to sum up the show today.
Cool. So, listeners, thank you very much for listening. We are going to ask 3 things really quickly before we sign off. The first is, please go to iTunes, rate us, download this episode, share it with your mates, which will be number 2. Feel free to share Wine, Women and a Dollop of Truth anywhere and everywhere that you go. Tell anyone that you know about us who you think would really benefit from listening to this style of podcast. And thirdly, hop onto our Facebook page, Women, Wine, Truth Hangout, and keep the conversation going there. Kelly and I hang out there all the time, and we're completely there to support you. Check out the guidelines around how that Facebook group works, and we're looking forward to continuing the conversation with you there. And we will check in with you next week with more wine, more truth.
More truth and more how it really is. So thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for being with us on our 3rd episode. We look forward to seeing you in the group, and till next time.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.